sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a bit of a different kind of topic. We're looking at the world of social media reaction, specifically around one game, a very specific game.
Yeah.
And it is the Lakers' recent loss at home to the Brooklyn Nets on Monday, February 27th, 2025.
Right.
Nets won this one 111-108.
A close game.
Close game. And much of the talk after this game has been about the performance of Lakers star guard Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, the box score looks pretty good. He had a triple-double.
Yeah.
22 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists, a couple of steals in 41 minutes.
Wow.
That's a stat line that most players would take any day of the week.
Absolutely. And yeah, those basic numbers look great.
Yeah.
But where things get interesting is that his shooting percentages weren't really up to his normal standards in this one.
Right.
He shot 8 for 26 from the field, just 3 of 10 from three-point range. And it seems like that inefficiency coupled with the fact that it was a close loss at home is what really sparked a lot of the conversation online.
Well, I think what's, really interesting to look at with modern sports and with fandom these days is how immediate and how public the feedback is.
Yes.
With social media platforms like X, formerly Twitter.
Yeah.
We really have sort of a minute-by-minute pulse of how fans are really processing a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have an SI.com article that we're taking a look at that really captures some of this.
Right.
And let's jump right into some of these reactions because they are all over the place and they are very fascinating.
Yeah.
One of the ones that caught my eye was from a user named Voodoo Baby who said, Luka left his bag in Dallas with a sad face emoji. Yeah, that's kind of just like a quick way of summing up the disappointment in his performance.
Right, and it's just kind of like almost like a visceral reaction,
Yeah.
just like, oh, he just didn't, he didn't have it tonight. He left it, wherever he was before.
Yeah, he wasn't all there or something.
Right, exactly.
Then you have another one at Dollvols 10 who focused on a specific element of the game and said, Luka flopping at the end was weak sauce. Now, for those unfamiliar, flopping, of course, refers to players exaggerating contact to try and draw a foul.
Right.
And that tweet really points to, kind of a different kind of frustration, almost like a question of, his gamesmanship in a key moment.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fans can't stand it when players flop.
Yeah.
And, there's an argument to be made that it is the part of the game.
It is.
But a lot of people don't like it.
Absolutely.
And if the team's losing and you see a guy slopping, that can be very frustrating.
Absolutely. And then it gets even a bit more critical with @_Fallerin1.
Okay.
Who essentially said that the role players played well enough and they put the blame for the loss squarely on Luka and Reeves, with a special emphasis on Reeves.
Oh, wow.
And, it's interesting how quickly a narrative can zero in on specific guys after a loss like this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's scapegoats, I guess, is the term.
Right.
But, when a team loses, especially a close game, there's always this kind of search for, who do we blame for this?
Right.
And in this case, they zeroed in on those two guys.
Yeah. And then, it gets even more critical, I guess we would say, with at Ken from Newport, who made a really strong statement about Luka's overall potential.
Oh, wow.
Saying Luka Doncic was a mistake, will never be a number one. Never.
Wow. That's a hot take.
That's a very strong opinion.
Yeah.
Especially based on one game.
One game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this speaks to the kind of pressure that these star players are under to perform
Absolutely.
at a high level every single night.
Every single night.
And if they have one bad game, people are going to be on X letting them know about it.
Absolutely. And then we have a tweet here from Dan Greenberg that's kind of funny.
Okay.
He says, think Jaylen Brown got in Luka's head again, lol. It's a bit of a playful reference to a previous matchup.
Right.
And it shows how, past interactions and perceived rivalries can kind of fuel the immediate reaction to a game like this.
Right. It's like these narratives sort of build up over time.
Yeah.
And then they get brought out.
Yeah.
Whenever whenever there's a new chapter in the story.
Exactly. And then we have @_very hateful.
Oh, yeah.
Who brought up some of the preseason concerns,
Yeah.
saying, y'all laughed at me when I said we needed a rim protector. Luka and Reeves getting cooked on D all night. So, this loss seems to have really validated some of those early anxieties that this person had.
Right. It's like a confirmation bias.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they had these fears before the season.
Yeah.
And then when something bad happens, it's like, see, I told you so.
Yeah. Yeah. It just confirms that those fears were valid.
Right. Exactly.
And then at Perry 1284 offered an interesting comparison to LeBron James, saying that LeBron just knows how to win games more than Luka right now. They also pointed out that Luka seemed to struggle when the Nets were using those trapping defenses.
Oh, interesting.
So this brings up, a key point about the ability to adapt to pressure in those big moments.
Yeah. I mean, being able to adjust your game plan on the fly.
Yeah.
When an opponent throws something different at you.
Yeah.
That's a sign of a really, truly elite player.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that this fan, picked up on Luka maybe struggling with those traps suggests that might have been, kind of a tactical breakdown.
Yeah.
That happened in the game.
A weakness that they were able to exploit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then finally we have at Customize a Plate with a very simple assessment of his shooting, saying, Luka got to play better, man. Those shots ain't falling efficiently. So, sometimes it really does just come down to making shots.
Right. Sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah.
The ball's got to go in the hoop.
Yeah. And so, we see this whole range of reactions from raw emotion to more kind of tactical analysis to some, really sweeping judgments about Luka's overall potential.
Yeah.
So to really get the full picture here, we should probably put this one game into the context of the Lakers season as a whole.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the article reminds us that as of right now, their record is 40 wins and 23 losses after 63 games.
Okay.
So that puts them at third place in the Western Conference, which is, objectively a pretty good spot to be in.
Right. At this point in the season.
Yeah. But this loss to the Nets did extend their losing streak to 2 games.
Right.
And they're going to be facing a tough Milwaukee Bucks team on the road on Thursday.
Right. So this is not like an isolated incident.
Right.
Every loss, especially at home, feels more and more significant when you're thinking about playoff positioning and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The stakes get higher and higher as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's telling that this SI article references a few other pieces about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's an article about Luka making an honest statement after this Nets game.
Okay.
Another one highlighting his historic performance against the Knicks in a previous game. One on Jaylen Brown's thoughts after a Lakers-Celtics matchup. And even one on Lakers legend Pau Gasol weighing in on Luka's development this year.
Wow. So this one game and this debate about his performance is really part of a much bigger story.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds like it's not just about this one bad shooting night.
Right.
It's about bigger questions about the team's performance and Luka's role within the team.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not just a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack there.
It is.
So let's try to step back here.
Okay.
And synthesize some of these key criticisms that we see in these fan reactions.
Okay.
What are some of the main themes that emerge here?
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones is just that inefficiency.
Yeah.
That we talked about, just the difference between the number of shots he took and the number of shots that went in.
Yeah.
And then there's also that idea that he struggled to adapt.
Yes.
When the Nets defense really started to get aggressive.
Right.
Especially those trapping schemes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, we also saw those comparisons to other elite players.
Yeah.
Especially LeBron James.
Right.
In terms of just being able to close out games.
Yeah.
Win games.
Yeah.
So, it seems like in some cases, the triple-double is almost being discounted.
It is.
Because of the loss and because of that inefficiency. And that really makes you think about how much fans value those individual statistics versus the actual outcome of the game.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting because,
in a win, a triple-double is almost always seen as a sign of dominance.
Right.
But in a close loss like this at home,
Yeah.
those same numbers can almost seem irrelevant.
Yeah.
If the player isn't perceived as having done enough to get the win.
Right. It's like all of a sudden the focus shifts from that individual achievement to the collective result.
Right.
And when you have a star player like Luka Doncic, who carries such a heavy offensive load.
Huge load,
if he doesn't get the win on a night where he plays 41 minutes.
the
disappointment and the criticism is going to be amplified.
Yeah, it's going to be loud.
Yeah.
So if we try to bring it all back together here, this deep dive into the fan reaction to Luka Doncic's performance against the Nets really highlights just how immediate and how unforgiving social media can be in pro sports.
Yeah. And despite putting up a triple-double, the loss and his struggles shooting really sparked a ton of criticism online. Focused on that perceived inefficiency, his inability to kind of adjust to the defensive pressure and those inevitable comparisons to other top players. And all of this is happening, within the context of the Lakers season as a whole. Their playoff seeding, the recent losing streak, all of that.
It all adds up.
Adds up to a lot of pressure. And so this kind of brings up a really interesting question for you, the listener. How much weight should we as fans and as observers give to a single game performance when we're evaluating a player's overall contribution and the team dynamics?
Because, these guys are human beings.
They are.
They're going to have good nights. They're going to have bad nights.
They are.
And, judging them solely on one performance. Especially when it's a close loss, know?
It's tough to say if that's really fair.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And what does this constant cycle of real-time reaction and judgment tell us about the pressure and the scrutiny that these athletes face? In this, hyper-connected world.
Exactly.
Social media-driven world that we live in.
Yeah, imagine having, thousands or even millions of people commenting on your performance. Seconds after you step off the court.
Every night.
That's got to be a lot to deal with.
Absolutely.
Something to think about, for sure.
Yeah, definitely something to think about. And we would love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So feel free to reach out to us on social media using the hashtag #TheDeepDive.
Absolutely.
Let us know what you think about this whole thing, because it's a very complex issue.
Yeah, it is.
But for now, we're going to leave it there.
Okay.
So until next time, dive on in, folks.
Yeah.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what